All right. And welcome to another episode of Witch Hat Chats, sponsored by the Ever Moving We Rise, the Laughing Soul Holistic Center, and Moonlight Potions and Charms. And I am your host, the marvelous, the wonderful, amazing goddess, Nikki Kirby. And our co host is the absolute fabulous magician, Saul Ravencraft. How are you doing today, Saul?
I am wonderful, Nikki. How are you?
I am doing amazing. Thank you so much.
If you hear a chainsaw in the background, do not worry. It is simply a supernatural serial killer running around our neighborhood today.
All right, we can deal with that. Not bad. We can deal with that. No big deal. You know, we've dealt with a lot more serious stuff than that. So everything going good now in Texas?
It is. When we talked last, we had just gotten past Snowpocalypse 2021, and a lot is back to normal. And right now, it's all about the screaming and the rolling of heads, which is going to be a whole other thing. We'll see if anything actually changes, if anything actually gets any better. But it's probably the least witchy possible kind of stuff going on right now with all of that. Um, but I've had a lot going on. I'm kind of rearranging myself a little bit. I have decided to own the title Saul Ravencraft, Executive Occultist.
Awesome. Awesome.
So I'm having some fun with that. I have my reading special that I'm doing. We've had several people sign up for that, so I've got all those scheduled and a lot going on. It's a good time.
Awesome. Awesome. I'm glad. You need to own that shit.
I do, I do. So what is going on with you?
All right, we got a lot of things going on with me. Every moving we rise, we have our full moon ritual tonight. That's going to be at 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, and it's going to be amazing and absolutely awesome. And then on March the 12th is our dark moon ritual, and March 13th is the Goddess Lounge, which is formerly known as the Red Tent. So, yesterday when we were talking at the Rainbow Spa, I was asked, what does Ever Moving We Rise do? Well, you know what? We do a lot of things and how our members are. And the thing about it is, we don't care what faith you are. We absolutely don't care. As long as you have personally done your shadow work and you have chosen it. Now, we are the ones that will help you to be able to do that. And we focus more on the authentic self and becoming leaders. So that is what our group is mainly focusing on. And if you want some of that, we are welcoming new members now. So I just wanted to have everybody to know about Ever Moving We Rise. And in Moonlight Potions and Charms, we do have some products that are coming back. And we're going to have a candle sale starting probably tomorrow. And if you put down candle, then you're going to get buy one, get one free. So we're going to be doing that tomorrow. And the Laughing Soul Holistic Center, they are going to have a sale on a lot of their readings. Now, I'm not quite sure which readings they're going to put on sale yet, but it's going to be 30 minutes for $30. So that's also a real good deal. And I know Saul has a good deal. Why don't you tell him about that, Saul?
So I have my elemental reading that I do. It's a tarot reading and it is very action oriented. It is the reading that gives you homework. It is not just about defining situation. It is about addressing a situation, looking at your different energies, earth, air, fire, water, spirit, and how those energies are being affected and how you might apply them to what it is you're trying to achieve. Normally, these readings are $100, but to celebrate the snowpocalypse 2021 being over, the return of my internet, and all of that, it is an 80% off deal through the end of the week.
Oh, that's
So
awesome.
if you sign up, you get this reading for $20.
Ooh, that's
They're about an hour. We do it all remotely. And if you just go to my Facebook page, Saul Ravencraft, Executive Occultist. You can click on the Book Now button and you'll see that special right up there at the top.
awesome. Awesome. So make sure that you get all of those deals. We like to be able to help out our Witch Hat Chat audience in every way that we possibly can. And we want to also let you know that Saul and I, we are looking for guests because we realize that we have, as far as the broad background of magic goes, we've got our expertise, but that's about our limitations, and we want to be able to diversify and learn about other types of magical skills and as well as cultures. So, if you are interested, please go ahead and send an email to witchhatchats@gmail.com. Anything you want to add about that, Saul?
Yeah, no, I agree with what you're saying. And I personally like to have myself challenged, to have my thinking challenged, to have my understanding challenged. And when I have dipped into other kinds of practices like Santeria, like voodoo, and the various flavors that float around that, there are all kinds of perspectives that I just have a vague understanding of, and probably a misunderstanding about, because it's been coming through, you know, fairly cheesy information sources, not an actual practitioner. More like learning about your spirituality through memes, uh, and
Or through
Fox News
Hollywood?
articles or something like that. And so yes, I would love to have people come on that deal with things that are just out of my box, and to give me a chance to really get a fresh look at things, because one, I may find things that resonate, and as a chaos magician, that's very important to me to be able to find other notes to add to my harmony. And but also, when I find things that are a little at odds with what I think is going on, that forces me to rethink things. And as you know, our magical practice is always evolving, and it's easy to get comfortable and complacent and think you got it figured out. And I never ever want to be there. I always want to be challenged and having to keep my own balance. So yes, if you do something that is unvanilla, something that is not talked about so much, I would love to have the opportunity to have you come on and represent and help us to broaden our horizons, because ultimately, that's what makes all the difference. And then we can stop worrying about our differences and start focusing our energy together on making the changes in the world that we really need to make.
Yep. I couldn't say it better myself, Saul. All right. I think it's time to introduce our guest. Now, a founding member of the North Carolina Piedmont Church of Wicca in Shelby, North Carolina, our guest host, who has been on here before, has been an electric Wiccan for nearly 30 years and served as clergy for at least 20 of those years. He is a devoted devotee of the great god of rebirth, transformation, tragedy, comedy, unresolved paradox, and wine, in other words, chaos and partying, and that's diagnosis. And he works with Ever Moving We Rise to organize the Greenman's Grotto, which is kind of like a male version of the Goddess Lounge. So we are proud to present and introduce my friend, our guest host, Tony Brown. How are you doing, Tony?
I am doing well. It's good to be here.
Awesome, awesome. And so you've been a returning member because I know you enjoyed it the last time that you and me were on, and we were challenging each other. Ah, so since we got the topic of the Green Man Grotto, why don't you tell our audience a little bit about that?
Well, basically, it's a group to explore men's spirituality, and I think that right now in the neo-pagan community, it's an important topic to really open up. There are issues and questions, the answers to which have changed. Gender and our understanding of it is different than it was 20 or 30 or 40 years ago when some of our traditions were first being established and defined. So we need to work on ways to express our masculinity and our spirituality in a masculine form while leaving behind the toxic elements and without reinforcing the idea of the patriarchy and other oppressive social structures that sometimes we inadvertently feed into.
Yeah, and it seems like that's something that's really really good for us to be able to have, especially with the men because the men don't seem to like to talk that much, right?
That's right.
I'm sure you can attest to that, Saul.
Well, I'm a little different. My mom made me a storyteller, so I probably talk more than I should. But I am intrigued by this. This is something that I'd like to attend myself at some point when my schedule irons out for it. Um, what are some of the discoveries that you've made so far when we talk about the toxic masculinity? What are, because typically we see the metaphysical paths, the witchy paths, tend to be much more goddess oriented. So, what sort of baggage do men bring into this that they need to deal with?
Well, a lot of it is really more cultural than spiritual. I know that the archetypes that are held up as consummate masculine examples uh, are often archetypes that display a lot of negative qualities. Uh, and what we need to do is we need to work on ways to carry forward with the positive aspects of the classic hero, of the sage, of the warrior, while leaving behind the elements of it that are harmful to others and to ourselves. One thing that I think is often overlooked is that when we talk about overthrowing the patriarchy or dismantling toxic masculinity, we think that we are casting men as aggressors and women as victims. But it is very often the male themselves who are the victims of those structures. Uh, Little boys are raised to deny their feelings, to conform to certain social roles and structures in social dynamics that hinder them, that sometimes stunt their growth, their ability to access their feelings, their ability to to experience their own authentic self. And what we need to do is we need to find new expressions of masculinity that let us be ourselves without giving up those roles.
That sounds wonderful. That sounds very productive. Love to hear more about that as it progresses.
Thank you.
So I remember like months ago, I attended a class that you were given about the Wiccan Rede. And it was something that was very different. Most of the time, people say, okay, you have to have the Wiccan Rede in all religions, which it's not. You cover that very well. It's for the Wiccan religion. But in your opinion, how does the Wiccan Rede, how does its history actually influence the way that it's looked at today?
Well, unfortunately, a lot of the people who are forming opinions about the Wiccan Rede in today's neo-pagan subculture, they're doing so robbed of the historical context that produced it. People don't know where it came from, and if they develop a superficial understanding of a concept like the Wiccan Rede, it just makes sense that they're going to develop superficial and incorrect opinions concerning it. People don't understand where the Rede comes from, what its precedents are, what it even actually means. There's just so much information and misinformation, especially on the internet, about the Rede, that it's a real quagmire. It's very hard to get people to a clear understanding of something when there's no clarity in their information concerning it.
Well, let's start with just a basic definition of the Rede and a brief interpretation of it, so people coming at it from different perspectives have a better understanding of what you're talking about.
Okay. Basically, the Rede is 8 words long. Its most famous, most well-known formulation is "and it harm none, do as you will." And this is a wording that was developed by Doreen Valiente, who many of you will recognize as sort of the mother of Wicca, in the way that Gerald Gardner was the father of Wicca. And she first put this formulation together, or first expressed it in a way that we're aware of, in the early 1960s. October 1964, at a dinner hosted by Pentagram, is when she first put those 8 words in that order and called them the Wiccan Rede. The concept itself, of course, is older than that. She based it on what Gerald Gardner described as the basic morality of witches, which he attributed to the legendary good King Pasul. And a lot of people don't know who King Pasul was, or how his persona, how his character relates to the Rede, and what would later be interpreted based on it. Basically, the 8 words mean, as long as you're not hurting someone, is not causing damage to someone else, then you're free and encouraged to do whatever brings you pleasure.
Okay. So I know you were talking about somehow the French had some influence on the Rede.
Oh, absolutely. King Pasul, who Gardner cited as a legendary good king, was actually a character in a novel written by Pierre Louys. It was called Adventures du Roi Pasul, The Adventures of King Pasul. It came out in 1901. It was originally serialized in an art magazine a few years earlier, but in its completed sense as a novel, it came out in 1901. And King Pasul ruled over a country called Trifine, which had only two laws. The first law was to do no harm to your neighbor. And the second law was, if you're following the first law, you can do whatever you want. And that's the form that Gardner quoted in his The Meaning of Witchcraft, the book he published in 1959. He said that the ethics and morality of witches was akin to that of the good King Pasul, and then he listed those two laws. Here's a little copy of The Adventures du Roi Pasul. It was eventually translated into English in the mid 19th century. The mid 20th century, and this is likely the form that Gardner encountered the king in a book like this. It was published in short runs because Pierre Louys had a reputation as a bit of a libertine. He was not a mainstream writer.
So there's a lot of things that I think tend to come up when when people think about that phrase. Now, of course, one is just sort of people brushing up against anyone having a good time, and for some reason, some of our culture is against it.
Right.
And harm none is, I think, a complicated concept. One of the things that I hear with that is this idea that witches have to be goody two shoes, as far as, you know, if someone has done something truly bad, has caused harm to someone else, well, we can't punish them anyway. We can't do anything to harm them in justice for what they've done. And I'll let your imagination go into all the terrible things someone might do that we think deserves some sort of restitution. How do you approach that? How should we think about that?
Well, I think the best way to approach those kinds of questions is to try to look and see what the original intent, the original meaning of the phrasing is. If we look at the Rede as a ethical principle, then we have to look at what its precedents are and what the concepts that it's expressing really mean. So the first thing we need to understand is what harm means realistically. And people who have an overly broad idea of what constitutes harm are going to find something like the Rede paralyzing, because they will come to it from almost a Janist perspective, where if you even swat a fly, then you're harming something, and then you're outside the tenets of the precept. But that does not appear to be the way that it was expressed either in the work of Louys or in the attitude that Doreen Valiente herself had toward it. I think the best way to define harm is, again, looking to the French sources, because if we look at Louys as a Frenchman and what might have influenced him, we might find the Declaration of Rights of Man and the Citizen, which is contemporary with our own Declaration of Independence. In the Declaration of Rights of Man and the Citizen, Article 4 says that liberty shall consist of the ability to do that which does not injure the rights of another person. And I think that that's the key. That if we define harm as acts which are injurious to the rights of others, then we understand that only those things that violate another person's rights are prescribed against. Like if someone breaks into your house, they don't have the right to be there, so you are free to exercise a force against them. Libertarians have a concept called the non-initiation of force principle, which basically says that you can't initiate force or fraud against another person without acting immorally or unethically. But if someone initiates force or fraud against you, it is ethical to respond in defense. And I think that is probably the best and most reasonable way to approach the idea of harm in the Rede.
That makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense, because I think that one of the things that people mischaracterize is they sort of assign a weakness to those that subscribe to that Rede. They can't protect themselves. They can't they can't do anything that is sort of aggressive. And sometimes you gotta defend yourself.
Right. People sometimes look at it as a call to pacifism.
Right.
But if you don't mind, I'd like to read just a very brief statement from Doreen Valiente's ABCs of Witchcraft, because she clarifies her idea. She says, witches do not believe that true morality consists in observing a list of thou shalt nots. Their morality can be summed up in one sentence: do what you will so long as it harms none. This does not mean, however, that witches are pacifist. They say that to allow wrong to flourish unchecked is not harming none. On the contrary, it is harming everybody.
Very interesting. Very interesting. Very clear. Very clear right there from the beginning. So, Tony, I suppose one of the things that I'm curious about is right now we're in a culture that is very keen on pointing out cultural appropriation. And my practice is magical, but not Wiccan. Mm-hmm. So I think it would be interesting to do just a little bit of clarification of what defines Wiccan and how it might be separate. But also, as a follow-up to that, what do you think of people who do not subscribe to the whole of Wicca and availing themselves of the Wiccan Rede?
Oh, well, I think that Wicca, like most religions, is best understood as a framework of beliefs and practices. And if someone practices and believes the majority of that framework, it makes sense to call them Wiccan. And if the majority of what they believe and practice falls outside that framework, it makes sense to call them something else. I don't think that there's, a single litmus test that will tell you whether or not someone is Wiccan or not. Our church uses the Wiccan Rede as its central defining characteristic. That if someone subscribes to the Rede as a guide to life, then we acknowledge them as practicing a form of Wicca that's compatible with ours, and they're welcome to join our fellowship. As far as people adopting the Rede and not adopting the label or the other practices of Wicca, again, we look to Doreen Valiente, who basically composed the Rede, at least its most famous wording. She sometimes referred to it not as the Wiccan Rede, but as the pagan credo. And in a pagan organization, which was not exclusively Wiccan, that she was involved in, she presented that as a general neo-pagan statement of morality. So I think not that she felt that everyone was obliged to pay attention to her wording of the Rede. She absolutely felt that it was a good idea, and that anyone who wanted to subscribe to it was welcome to do so.
So let's talk just a little bit about what defines Wicca. You talked about some of the key principles there. There may be some people listening to this that feel that they are Wiccan, but are not really connected with some of these ideas. There may be people who are more Wiccan than they thought they were. So what's kind of a quick rundown of the key principles of Wicca?
So I think it's important to understand that Wicca currently exists in two primary forms. There's eclectic Wicca, which is what I practice and what a lot of people in America are familiar with. And then there's initiatory or British traditional, or just sometimes called traditional Wicca, which is more focused on ideas of initiation and hierarchy and lineage. Eclectic Wicca is more focused on commonalities of belief and practice. And among those beliefs, I have a kind of a 5-point set of beliefs that sort of sum Wicca up for me. One is that we believe in polarity. That is, we believe that divinity exists in both masculine and feminine forms. We believe in reciprocity, which is, the Wiccan Rede and the threefold law. We believe in immanence, which is that divinity is inherent in nature rather than transcendent and above it, which you find in some of the Abrahamic religions, is that divinity existed as a source that produced nature, and we think of divinity as an essence that infuses nature. And then there's the idea of unity, which is that the two divine polarities in union is our central mystery, and is that produces life and the energy that permeates the universe. And we also believe in symmetry. That's the grand hermetic principle, as above, so below, that microcosm and macrocosm mirror each other. So in terms of the framework of beliefs, those are the 5 that to me define Wicca. And in terms of practice, because again, it's a framework of beliefs and practices, then you look at things like the common Wiccan ritual framework, where you cast the circle, you call in the 4 quarters, you invoke a deity in form of god and goddess. And you have the common Wiccan tools and their elemental associations and their gender associations. You have the athame and the chalice. You have the wand. I don't want to go into too much detail about the Wiccan framework because I don't think everyone's interested in it. But that's it. That framework of practice and that framework of beliefs. And if you hit 9 out of 10 or even 7 out of 10, you're probably Wiccan. I mean, close enough.
Well, and I think also it's important to remind people that may not be fully connected with Wicca that it is a religion. It is a spiritual practice, and that it is separated just the pure thaumaturgy of working magic.
Exactly.
That you can work magic without subscribing to all of these other things. Now, if there is someone who has gotten into magic, let's say we got a baby witch going on here, and they've gotten their book of 5,000 spells, and they've bought their magic shoes, and they're starting to work their way through this. What are some of the qualities of the Wiccan belief system that might be beneficial to someone who may be missing it?
Well, religions serve a variety of purposes. One of them is that they give you some commonality. If you subscribe to a religion along with a group of other people, then you have a support network, people that can answer your questions about spirituality, people that you can share an identity with, that kind of bonding. Some people use the term egregore, that shared thought form, that group mind. And I don't like to use it. I don't like the idea of a group mind, because to me, the primary purpose of a group mind would be group think, and that has a very negative connotation for me. But the idea of a shared gestalt of spiritual identity, I think that is itself a positive, without getting into the lockstep that you would get into. That's when the hierarchy is too rigid. So that's a benefit that people have by subscribing to a religion. Another is that it answers some questions. It gives you access to ethical guidance, to ideas about the metaphysical nature of the universe. And if you have some of those common questions and you have answers that other people have found useful, and you have that understanding in common with them, then it lets you advance more so than if you were solely on your own. One way to define religion that I like, and I forget exactly who said it, it was attributed to Gandhi, but I don't think it's correct. The idea is that religion is to spirituality as law is to justice. That when properly implemented, religion enhances and secures spirituality, just like when properly executed, law enhances and secures justice.
I like that.
Yeah. I do like that. Me, I am the one who kind of chooses more of spirituality versus religion, because with spirituality, there you make the boundaries and so forth. And religion can go along that lines at times with that. Um, but as far as ethics go along, ethics, I think that we need to say is more of a man-made thing versus a deity type thing. Do you agree with that, Tony?
Well, I think that if we look at ourselves as an expression of divinity, an expression of the divine will, then understanding how we should act toward other people is, I think it's a divine mandate. I think that in order to be good people and to fulfill our role as an expression of the divine, that we should have an ethical aspect to our practice and to our personality. That doesn't mean that one ethical precept or one set of rules is going to be the correct one and all others are deficient. But I do think that unless we have some tools for evaluating and contemplating the way our behavior affects other people, that we're not really expressing the divine identity the way we should be.
Yeah. So when it comes to the Wiccan Rede, how would you advise somebody who is thinking about putting that into their practice, but it's not really sure? So how would you advise for them to go about it that will serve them best?
My advice is to make sure that you're clear on your definitions. Make sure that you understand what harm is. And also make sure that you understand that the Wiccan Rede, as expressed, is not just harm none. Because the thing that differentiates the Wiccan Rede from other expressions of the reciprocity principle, the thing that lifts it above, in my mind, say the Golden Rule or the Buddhist expression of it, is that ours uniquely contains the additional directive to pursue your own gratification. That after you have met your requirement of respecting the rights of others, it is your duty to pursue your own elevation, interest, and gratification. Do what you will. Crowley, who is often associated with other formulations of the Rede, even though Crowley doesn't, there's not a direct line to Crowley's Law of Thelema to the Wiccan Rede. They both reach into French sources, but separately. But what Crowley said is that do what you will shall be the whole of the law. And he also said that love is the law, love under will. People don't always understand that when Crowley talked about the will, he talked about a higher concept. That was a sense of divine purpose, a destiny, to to Crowley, the will was something that we all had collectively, that we all served a greater divine purpose. And the Wiccan Rede is more about personal desire in terms of growth after respecting the rights of others.
And with that, we have to go to commercial. So, Saul, who are we going to have our commercial with today?
Well, we are. I'm a little disorganized here for a moment. Let me get the information in front of me. So with our commercials, well, you said commercial, and I was thinking music, so it threw me just a little bit there. But today, as always, we spend time looking at some of our pagan musicians, and we have a group today that is it's a video. Gosh, I wish we could just edit all this out. This is one of those do-over moments. So we're going to enjoy our pagan song of the week. There's a wonderful set of a whole wonderful culture of pagan musicians that are out there doing things in all different directions. This week we are going to feature from the album Zero, the song Demigod, and the group is the Wendy Rule. So enjoy.
Trust me, darling, life has just begun. When you sense some sweetly sick from overladen joy, and life seems thick to even touch, fly with me and meadow sweet, I love you much, much, much more, and I'll be your empress. You will love me. Erotic and you transcend what was once exotic to a higher plane, where you can be a demigod again and again and again and again. I'll be your empress. You will love me. I'd wear scattered roses on my dress. With you above me, all that was night would be achingly bright, and the sky would be blue. And with little darkness in dreams, you never imagine would come true.
When you start your day, do you feel energized and ready to embrace the day? Or do you not want to get out of bed, dreading the day ahead? Do you feel like you were born to do something more? Discover your life's passion and purpose at the Laughing Soul Holistic Center. Our 3-month coaching program, The Soulful Life, is designed to discover who you are at your core. Free yourself from the cage you allow others to place you. Create and establish a strong spiritual foundation. Discover your life's passion and purpose and align yourself with spirit as you emerge into your authentic self. So visit us at www.thelaughingsoulholisticcenter.com and discover how to live the soulful life. Love is in the air and luck is around the corner. At Moonlight Potions and Charms, our products are designed to help you embrace the power of your own magic. Our new arrival, the Bridget Blessing Spell Kit, designed to obtain the Celtic Triple Goddess's Blessing. Need love in your life? Our spell kits are just right. Our Voodoo Doll Love Spell Kit contains what you need to manifest love in your life. And don't forget, our Altar on the Go can be customized to fit your personal needs. There is so much more in our Wicked store to help you embrace the power of your own magic. So come on in to Moonlight Potions and Charms at www.moonlightpotionscharms.com and discover the wicked things that ignite the magical passion in you. Curious about the authentic self? Unsure about your spiritual path? At Ever Moving We Rise, we can help you with those questions and so much more. Our name is our affirmation, as we realize everyone's path is uniquely personal. We are all about emerging the authentic self as we walk in alignment with spirit. We are family as we recognize our organization as a living, breathing organism. You are welcome to join us as we celebrate spirit and our authentic self in our monthly rituals, events, and classes. Visit us at our website or Facebook page and discover what magically distinguishes us from the crowd. All right. Now that was pretty awesome. So welcome back to another episode of Witch Hat Chats, and we are talking with Tony. Tony?
I'm back. Here I am. So many buttons.
Yeah, you want to push them all, right?
That's right.
Oh, I tell you one thing, my damn allergies are just really, really getting to me. Okay, so when it comes to ethics, how do you believe that somebody should create their own ethics? Is there like a method that you believe they should go by, or what would that be?
Well, when I was looking for ways to understand how I should relate to other people, years and years ago, before I became Wiccan, before I understood anything about the history or the study of behavior, it occurred to me that in order for any kind of rule of conduct to be fair and to be manageable and to be maintainable, it had to be symmetrical. It had to apply equally to myself and other people. That it had to, the one test that I came up with on my own is that if everyone behaved this way, would that be sustainable and workable? And that's, the Wiccan Rede fits that perfectly. That's one of the things that attracted me to it, is that if everyone respected the boundaries of others' rights and within those boundaries acted to make themselves as happy and complete as possible, then we would live in paradise. But if you follow an ethic that's more, I guess, rule-based, is like, or more tribal-based, is like, I want as much as I can get and screw everybody else. If everyone's like that, then things are crappy for everyone. So to me, if someone's looking for a way to judge different ethical systems and different ways to build their own personal ethics, make sure that it's something that can be universally applied. Don't expect it to be. Don't expect everyone to follow your ethics, but imagine a world in which everyone did. And is that better or worse than what we have now?
Right. And you know what? I just thought of a question because it seems kind of odd. We're talking about ethics and rules and everything. And you happen to be a devotee of Dionysus,
I am.
the chaos god.
Well, chaos, perhaps. It would be better to say that he is a god of he is a god of paradox. That is at his core, his most defining feature, at least in my experience, is that he is his most potent symbol is wine, and that is regarded by the Greeks as both medicine and poison. Dionysus is dual nature always, and it is a duality that is left unresolved. He is both the god of liberation. He is Dionysus Laesus, who loosens all restriction. But he is also Dionysus Ebolus, Dionysus of good counsel. He is the giver of unmixed wine, but he is also the very god that commanded that wine always be mixed with water to lower its potency. So that, yeah, the Dionysus is a god at his heart who is irrational, who sets rules that don't make sense. And I think that part of his appeal to me is that he represents something that without him I would find inaccessible. I have a kind of a linear way of thinking, and when I reach out to divinity, I reach for something that dissolves those lines, that erases the boundaries that so define my life.
Okay.
Well, I think this might be a good time to talk about pleasure. This is not an area that we're necessarily comfortable with in modern culture, and there is this idea. Well, I don't know. Maybe it is just rampant hedonism, or not. How do you look at how the ideas of Dionysus and that pursuit of pleasure fits into the world of getting stuff done and having neighbors?
Well, the earliest expression of a statement that mirrors the Wiccan Rede that I can find is one of the maxims at Delphi. And it is gratify without harming. It defines not only what you are to do, that is gratify yourself, but it also gives a common sense limitation on that pursuit, is that you pursue your own pleasure, but not at the expense of others. In the Charge of the Goddess, that some other Wiccans will probably recognize, the goddess tells us that all acts of love and pleasure are her rituals. But it is important to note that those are acts of love and pleasure, not acts of pain and pleasure, not power over. It is a pleasure that is sought with consent.
So you should probably still have a job.
Well, if you can get by without working, then I think that that's perfectly acceptable. I do as little as possible myself.
I love it.
And so Tony, you were going to start your own Dionysus group.
Oh, I very much want to. I just I need to get all the ducks in a row. What I'm looking for is something that can mirror the structure of the old Iobocic Society from Rome, which was a kind of a hybrid of what we'd recognize as a fraternal organization and a religious organization. They would hold events in devotion to Dionysus, or to Bacchus, but as the Romans knew him. But they were events of both civic and religious significance. They were like big state dinners and things like that. So my idea is to have, you know, a dinner at a hall somewhere, maybe as a potluck, and there would be speeches given, expressions of devotion to various Greek divinities. But another focus of it would be to bring people together in fellowship, to enjoy some wine and some food, and exchange some ideas. The original definition of a symposium was a drinking party, and so
I'd buy that for $1.
I would sell you one for $1. But that's what I would like to see happening. Not something that replaces a person's primary spiritual identity, but something that can be used to bring people of multiple spiritual persuasions together in a fellowship and shared ideas environment. Plus, there would be drinking.
Well, and I feel like our pagan culture in general could use a good dose of party mode. That so many people carry so much weight on their shoulders and feel so responsible for the whole world. I know some people, some witchy people, that just seem to have forgotten how to have fun.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, there are a couple of different approaches, and I think that what we've done is we've kind of balkanized, and there are people who pursue their paganism in a very dry, very almost puritanical way. They're very focused on ideas of correct practice, orthopraxy. And then there are other people who come to paganism with nothing but hedonism in mind. They see paganism as a way to slough off the conventions that their previous religious paths imposed upon them. And I think there's got to be some middle ground, somewhere where we can meet, that we are both serving the gods and serving ourselves.
Yeah, there has to be that type of medium. Because I mean, you and me have known each other for a couple years now, and you know, I'm not one of those that's very dry or very structured
Mm-hmm.
type of people, you know, because to me, when you get it that structured, you take all the fun out of it, you know. and and it's like I always say, you know, we are divinity, you know, ourselves, and the deities and spirits, they have a sense of humor.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'll quote the charge of the goddess again. The goddess says, "Let there be mirth and reverence within each of you." Mirth and reverence. And I think that there's room for both of those.
Definitely is so. You know, I don't know, have you ever watched the second movie of Percy Jackson?
I'm not sure I've seen the first one.
All right, well, they had Dionysus in both of them.
Ooh.
And in the second one, he's trying to turn water into wine, is what he's trying to do.
Oh.
And he says, you know, that's the only thing I like
Been
about
done.
God, that what he can do is that he can turn water into wine. That is a fabulous treasure.
Oh, well, in fact, I'll just put this out here, and not playing favorites, but Dionysus didn't need water to turn it into wine. He produced wine from nothing.
Right. So he went one step further. He said, forget the water here.
Yes,
Let's just go ahead and just do it all.
That is, in fact, one of the recorded miracles of Dionysus is at an annual festival, they would leave empty jars in a temple, and the next morning they'd be filled with wine.
So have you figured out how that works yet?
I suspect that they snuck in and put wine in those jars. I think the Greeks were very pragmatic people when it came down to it.
Works for me.
Hey, we don't care how it gets in there as long as it gets there, right?
Exactly. I'm more concerned with taking the wine out of the jars.
Yeah, that'd be a neat spell. Be able to have it to automatically refill your glass every time.
That would be awesome.
So, let me know when you figure that one out.
I'll get right on it. I really will.
Because, you have people now, especially the wine experts, they turn their noses up to like boxed wine. And people, when it comes to Dionysus, he don't care whether it's boxed or bottled. Wine is wine.
Well, especially the idea that the Greek wines were not always the best. We have historical evidence that they tried to cut the bitterness by adding herbs and such. That a lot of what the Greeks drank and drank with gusto, we would probably not consider very palatable. But I think this is something that I think expresses the character of Dionysus. Is I think that some of our modern wines have become too tame. I like the wine made from our native North Carolinian grape, the Muscadine, because I think it has a spirit of wildness still in it that I think is more expressive of the character of Dionysus. That's why the group I want to put together is called the Theasis of the Ancient Vine. And that is a reference to the mother vine, which grows down in Roanoke. It was a muscadine vine that was here when the first settlers arrived. The oldest cultivated grapevine in this hemisphere, over 400 years old.
Yeah, I do like the wines that have muscadine in them.
Me too.
I'm also a blackberry wine. I love blackberry wine.
I also like the blackberry wines.
But me, I'm the type of person, the sweeter the wine, the better. I don't like for example, most white wines are very dry. And I don't like things that are, okay.
I have very unsophisticated taste in wine.
They have degrees in that now, right?
They have what now?
College degrees in that.
Wow.
It's called
Yeah.
a sommelier, and it is a very sophisticated approach to wine and all its qualities. Personally, I like John Cleese's idea that you whatever you like is fine.
I agree.
I think we should try all the wines personally.
I endorse that.
Yep. I'm the same way. To me, whatever you like is what you like. I've was in California, and in Northern California, wine is really, really big. I mean, it's everywhere, everywhere. And I've had so many different types of tastings and everything, and I've seen people, turn up their nose, especially what is it that I like is the dessert wines, port.
Muscats are
Mhm.
tasty. You'd like a muscat, I think.
Yeah. Because to me, it has to have some type of flavor in it. Otherwise, you might as well be drinking, just pure alcohol.
Kool-Aid wines.
Yeah.
Hey, Kool-Aid wine has taste to it, honey. All right, I'm not talking about Kool-Aid wine. I'm talking about pure, the touching alcohol that you use to sterilize crap. That's what
I think though that
course,
this wine conversation is very interesting because it gets right back to what we were talking about pleasure, and that pleasure is a very personal thing, and it has a lot of variety. And I would imagine that someone who truly subscribes to the Wiccan Rede is someone who is really very tolerant overall about other people's perspectives and what other people enjoy doing.
exactly. The hardest part of the Wiccan Rede is understanding that symmetry, that it applies to other people as well. That if someone else is doing something if they're not hurting anybody and they're deriving pleasure from it, it's okay for them to do that. Even if what they're doing is stupid or doesn't make sense to you or is vaguely annoying, it's okay, that as long as they're not imposing upon the rights of others.
But they have blue hair.
I know. It's like, that's not music, that's just noise. But the hardest part of living by the Rede, and I do my best to live by the Rede, is understanding that other people have their own forms of gratification. And as long as they're not hurting anybody, they should be doing that.
It sounds, though, that a proper application of the Wiccan Rede in society creates a culture where a lot more people just shut up.
Yeah. Live and let live.
Yeah, a little bit more laid back type of community. You know, that's the same way about the United States. What a lot of people don't understand is that your right of free speech, you have the right of free speech, yes. However, that other person has the right to not to listen to you, or they have the right to have a different opinion than you do.
Exactly.
You know, and so on, and we fight about that, but you know, that's just the thing about it. That's what our Constitution is, you know, kind of made of. So it's kind of similar to the Wiccan Rede. Yeah, there's things out there I don't want people to say. I don't like people saying them. I don't like things that they do. But you know what? You know, they have to walk their own path. You know, and as like you said, as long as it's not, you know, harming a child or animals or something like that, then it's perfectly acceptable. You
Yeah,
know,
whether we like it or not.
right, right.
It's you're bringing up the Constitution and the founders is something that is interesting because okay, Gardner attributed his ideas about a witch's ethic. He said that these are similar to the laws of the good King Pasul. If you're familiar at all with Albert Nock, he's a proto-libertarian. He wrote essays about freedom. What stands out in his one of his essays, he says the ethics of the founding fathers most closely resembles that of good King Pasul. And he quoted it was almost the same format that Gardner did. This is an essay that Nock wrote in the 30s. And I've always thought that it's very likely, given the similar sentence structure of their statements, that Gardner was actually mimicking the statements of Albert Nock. I know that Gardner was very well read, and that it's not at all inconceivable that he would have been familiar with those essays. But the sentence is practically the same. You just swap out founding fathers and witches.
All right, Tony. So how can our people be able to reach you?
Well, I'm on Facebook, Tony Brown. They can get to the church. That's the North Carolina Piedmont Church of Wicca. We have a Facebook group, and we also have a website. That's churchofwicca.org.
Awesome. Well, you know, thank you so much, Tony, for coming on to the show.
Thank you very much for having me.
We truly appreciate it. And you continue to make a difference in your life and others.
Thank you.
Have a good one, honey.
You too.
All right. Well, Saul, we have got the witch's cabinet next. Woohoo! So. All right. So for today's witch's cabinet, we've got something that is going to be really good for you guys. I'm going to do a presentation on the Orishas. And so, give me a minute here. So I'm going to do a presentation for the Orishas. And let's see here. I gotta share it. I just hate it when my thing just comes up here. So the one thing I am going to turn around and tell everybody is that I am not an expert when it comes to the Orishas. I am actually, like a lot of people, I'm still learning about the Orishas. And what I am going to tell you today is basically through research and personal experience. And towards the end, I will tell you some experts that you can be able to go to and discuss more about this. So, the Orishas are from Africa, if you guys didn't know that. Awesome. Now, let's see. So I want to let you know that the Orishas, there's been some major ones that's been talked about. There's more than 400 Orishas because they come from the native religion of the Yubaba people. And they came to the Americas mainly due through the Atlantic slave trade, which was from the 16th to the 19th centuries. And they're part of many African practices, beliefs, and religions, including we've got hoodoo, we've got voodoo, we've got Santeria, and there's so many other religions that it's included from. So right here, I just wanted to bring out a picture here that shows some of the different ones that maybe you haven't noticed or you don't know of, and just to let people know about that. But with the belief system, when it comes to Orishas, daily life really depends on proper alignment and knowledge of one's aura. And an aura literally means the word head, but spiritually, it's a portion of the soul that determines personal destiny. And I thought that was rather interesting, it being about personal destiny and not being some other type of thing here. And the Orishas are rooted from ancestor worship, warriors, kings, and founders of cities. According to them, they are not gods. They are actually intermediaries between people and the creator. So they were actually at one point on the earth living as humans. Because in this belief, their ancestors don't die, they just become part of the Orisha. And the word ash, which is used a lot, is the life force that runs through all things living and animate objects. So they believe that you need to be living your ash and just being able to live out the life that you are meant to live as part of your destiny and so forth. So this picture has to do with a couple of the post stamps that Cuba had created of some of the Orishas, and some of them we're going to go over today. So let's meet the Orishas. Now, Shango, he is also known as Chango, Exco, and Sango. So he's the most skilled warrior and royal ancestor. His domain is over skill and strategy. So if you need something for like skill and strategy, he is the one to go to. He wears a crown of fire and carries an axe and teaches in order to bring balance, you must possess a cool head and a proper strategy, which is something that I think a lot of people can be able to learn today. People get mad and they just want to go and tear up things, and you can't be mad. You can be mad to a point. However, you've got to have a strategy to be able to get your point across. And that is something that Shango does teach. He is the Lord of Lightning, drums, dancing, and enthusiasm. His colors are red and white, and the offerings are like red apples, rooster feathers, red palm oil. And his element is fire, and his number is 6. So over here, Moonlight Potions and Charms has donated their candle images. And Shango, he's here. You go with the fire. You got the crown. You got the lightning around here, and right here is what they call the vive, which is their symbol of the Orishas and so forth. And you can get all of these at Moonlight Potions and Charms, which we will go over there later. But the next one is Oshan. Now, Oshan is also known as Osan, Ochan, and I cannot pronounce the last one. She is the first woman to be referred to as a Leilode, which is a high rank chieftain. She was considered to be Shango's wife, and she was connected to destiny and divination. So, one of the things of divination that they have is with cowrie shells. So, you can see that right here on the label that Moonlight Potions and Charms has provided. She is the owner of freshwater rivers and rivers of blood within us, which means our blood. So, she's the one who is the most gifted. She is also known for her gift of diplomacy because it is said that only the Orisha able to get the 24-hour eating and working Ogan to stop in his tracks and value her exquisiteness and magnetism happens to be Oshan because she uses the law of attraction a lot. So when you need somebody to be able to help you with the cool head diplomacy, she is the person for it. The offerings are cowrie shells, which are these little shells, honey, and peacock feathers. Peacocks are really special to her. Her colors are gold and green, and her element is water, and her number is 5. So, like I said, when it comes to um, Oshan, here she is. She's dancing at a river. She's just having a really good time. She's one of those who truly believes that you really need to live your spirit. So that's one of the goddesses, not goddesses, excuse me, um, one of the entities that should be probably included like in Ostar, which is coming up because she is also the goddess of fertility and so many other wonderful things. And let's see. And then the next one is Ogan. Now, Ogan is also known as these other names as well. He is the most feared, but he's also the most oldest warrior. He was the first king of Alpha, which is part of the tribe that these Orishas come from. He's god of iron and the spirit of metalwork, rum, and rum making. So what he does is he removes obstacles, and he teaches to respect humanity by breaking down the ego self. So this is a Orisha who's all about shadow work, going inside yourself, making sure that you can be able to um, understand, number one, who you are, why do you react in some sort of ways, and to be able to respond instead of react. So he will be a good one for that. The offerings you can give him are keys, knives, and railroad spikes, and his colors are green, red, and black. His elements are fire, earth, and metal, and his numbers are 3, 4, and 7. So over here, this is right here is a way in Africa of how they would make like swords and so forth. A dog is also one of his many animals. And here's the railroad spikes and so forth. So that is one thing about Ogan is, he can be very feared, but the thing about it is he understands the difference between fear and respect. So that's something he can also be able to teach you. And then we got Yamaya, and she is also known by these other names as well. And honestly, with all these Orishas, they're known by many, many, many more names than what I have depicted here. So these are just some of the basics. She's a primordial mother, often dictated as a mermaid. She resides over the earth, waters, female mysteries, super conscious mind, and the internal creation. So she is all about the humans, about how our soul is doing. She is about regeneration and healing. She wants us to be able to live the way that we were meant to live, to be in alignment with spirit. So she's all about pointing out, hey, this is something that you need to work on. Then you go to Ogan, you work on it, you come back here, and you have the healing with her. So that's one good thing about her. She entices us to study the mystical unknown. So she's another one to be able to do a lot of good soul searching and shadow work with. Because the thing about it is, we talk a lot on Wish Hat Chats about shadow work, and shadow work is very important because it tells you exactly who you are. You have absolutely no doubts about yourself or your spirituality or really anything because you already have done that exploration. You've already asked those questions. So that is one of the good things about doing shadow work. And the thing about shadow work is it's not always easy. And these Orishas really know that and they understand that. So they will probably push you, but it's something that's coming from a love type push. It's not something that, hey, you got to do this or I'm going to just knock the crap out of you. They don't do that. At least some of them don't do that. But they do understand about shadow work and how you had to do it your own way. But her colors are blue, white, and green, and her offerings are watermelon, the cowrie shells again, and a mirror because mirrors represent water. And her element, of course, is water, and her number is 7. So that is Yame's candle label right there for her. And like all the other ones, she has a little vive that shows about her symbol. And then you have Orlora, and he is known by other names, but he's also the one who helped created the universe. So he leads the priesthood when it comes to the priesthood in these particular types of African American religions. He is the spirit of wisdom and divinity of destiny and prophecy. So he protects against mental illness and insanity. He's the master divinator. So if you have any divinations, this is the Orisha that you need to come to and to be able to ask them about that. He also protects that. He's also with healing as well. So he coconuts and candles. So his colors are green and yellow. So this will be someone who you would come to for divination, for healing questions about the universe in general. And then you have Oya, and she's also known as several different other ones. Her name actually means she tears. So she is a very powerful queen and wife of Shango as well. She transports spirits from the recent dead to the spirit world, and she reigns over storms, cemeteries, death, and the marketplace. She is also the reigning queen for like feminine empowerment and stuff because she believes that all females we really should enhance and grab our power and not let anybody take that from us. So she is one of those who's really into that. She is a master of transformation, transition, and change. Offerings for her would be like purple eggplants, red wine, and grapes. Her colors are red, maroon, orange, and purple, and her element is air, fire, and thunder. So her number is 9, and 9 is the number of change. So she is one of those ones in which if you have a problem with a business with your business, excuse me, you go to her. If you need to be able to gain back your power, you go to her. So she is an absolute wonderful entity. And then Igu, which is also known as Papa Legba and Legba and several different others. Now, the thing that's kind of different about the African religions versus like Celtic or Germanic or the other European religions is that when it comes to the African religions, you have to go through a gatekeeper who is Papa Legba. He is the one who will say yay or nay before you can go to any of the other Orishas. You have to have permission from Papa Legba. Now, the Orishas themselves can come to you anytime they want to, but if you want to go to them, you have to have Papa Legba to say yes or no. And the thing about it is, when it comes to him, I would recommend you talk to him first because, like I said, he's the gatekeeper. So if he wants to say no to you, which he probably he can and he will. If he believes that he wants to say no to you, he will. Um, he's also the one in which he gives messages to the Orishas. So maybe one of the Orishas don't want to see you right now. You can ask him, say, could you please give him a message, for me? He's the owner of the Johnny, which is life obstacles. He resides at the crossroads, the opening and closing of doors, and shows multiple life paths for you. So he can also be the one to really help you as far as trying to decide, well, should I go down this path or this path? Um, and the one thing I really want to clear up because there's been Hollywood type of programs like uh, American Horror Story. This basically has shown Papa Legba to be like the devil. He is a trickster, but he is not a devil. When he does the tricks, it's usually to try to teach you something, especially if you have your eyes closed and you're not aware of it. But as far as being a devil, none of these entities are the devil, and they never were. Some offerings you can give him are rum, tobacco, and toasted corn. Um, his colors are red and black. His element is earth, and his number is 3. So right here, he usually smokes a pipe. He has a straw hat most of the time, and he's accompanied by a dog. He's another dog lover. Keys are another good thing you can be able to offer him because he does have the keys to be able to open up doors, gates, anything like that. He also has the keys to be able to close them as well. So that's something to do with Papa Legba. And crap. And our last one is Otala. Now, Otala is known by other ones. This one is the oldest of all the Orishas and grants authority to create earth. Known for the purity of both physical and spiritual. This Orisha happens to be both genders or neither one at all. It was one of the hardest ones. Actually, this was the hardest one for me to design because this entity kept changing on me, kept changing from female to male, and then nothing at all. And so ended up putting both the female and the male. He's very good for like transgenders because he's the Sky Father. He's also the creator of humans, and that includes any what they would call like disabilities of humans, like blindness or that type of thing. So he is, or it. I'm just going to say it because it can be either one or both at the same time. is the one to go to. Especially, I think this is a really good one for transgenders, because this is a deity that truly understands what the transgenders are going through and can be able to help them. The offerings are the meat of the coconut, cocoa butter, and white pigeons, because his color is white. And you don't want to ever offer this Orisha any type of alcohol. Never do that. The element is earth, and the number is 8. So this one's also good for justice, whether the justice is social justice or it's justice for like criminal defenses. But here's the thing I'm going to let you guys know. Let everybody know. If you are guilty, you don't want to call any type of justice entity, period, because they're going to find you guilty. They're not going to sit here and say, "Oh, yeah, you're guilty, but we're going to overlook that." No, no, you don't want to do that. So, um, another thing I was going to show you is how do you introduce yourself to the Orishas? Well, number one, you want to do your research. So the first one you want to research is Papa Legba, because he is the one who's the gatekeeper. He's the one who can say yay or nay. And then you want to research any Orisha that you feel special attachment to, you want to learn more about, or that has come to you currently or in the past. You want to dedicate a candle to that Orisha, and you want to make them an offering. Now, when it comes to any type of first time you're talking with any type of entity, whether it's a deity, a spirit, or anything in between, you never want to ask anything from them. Never. Not on the first encounter, because that first encounter is where you're going to be building your relationships. Now, when it comes to Moonlight Potions and Charms, um, Papa Legba here comes automatically with everything. It's already come fixed. So that way, all you really have to do is kind of cut the wick, and you just light the candle. And in addition to that, you can also make some offerings to him or to whatever Orisha you have. So if you want to go to www.moonlight potions and charms and pick up your candle, go right ahead. Like I said, they all come fixed with herbs and oils. So that way you don't really have to kind of worry about fixing the candle for them. But when you're first talking to Papa Legba, say, "Hey, Papa Legba, this candle is dedicated to you," and make sure you let them know that. Now, you may say, "Well, they already know that." No, no, they may, and they may not. But you want to make sure that anytime you introduce yourself to a new entity, that you're always going to make things crystal clear when it comes to that portion of it. And then you make your offering. You tell them and say, "Hey, my name is Nikki Kirby, and I'm um, dedicating this to you. And here's your offering. And I just want to get to know you, and I want you to get to know me." And so that's the first time you do it. And you may want to go ahead and make that relationship again a couple more times before you ask them anything. But like I said, you never want to ask somebody something the first time. I mean, how would you feel if somebody came up to you, you had absolutely no clue who it is, and you say, "Hey, Saul, I want some money from you." How would you feel, Saul?
Well, good luck with that.
And that's probably what the Orisha would say. Good luck with that. So that is our witches cabinet for today. Oh, that was a lot of information in a small amount of time. I tell you that much. All
Well,
right.
but sometimes it is a lot of information. Sometimes that's just the way it is.
Well, you know what? a lot of people, they think that, okay, the ones that I mentioned are the only Orishas around, and it's like, no, there's more than that. And each religion depends depends on your religion, depends on how many that there are. But the minimum is always 400 plus one. So you have plenty to look at, so I really truly like about that. So anyway, that is all for our show today. Awesome. So join us next week as Saul and I are going to give our Star special edition. Woohoo! I'm really looking forward to that one, aren't you, Saul?
You bet. You bet. Again, the wheel of the year is the core of a lot of what we do, and just understanding those different energies, connecting with those different energies, and every year it's going to hit you differently. So I'm looking forward to it.
I am as well. And, we want to thank our first responders, essential workers, and our medical workers for all your passion and your dedication and what you're doing in this fight to win against this pandemic. You know, People, we are getting our vaccines, but it's not over. This pandemic is far from over. So make sure that you're still wearing your mask, you're maintaining your 6 feet of distance from each other, and you're keeping your fuzzy babies, your family, and yourself safe. So thank you, Saul, for joining us today. And everybody have an amazing week.